Hey all, is everybody having a good Saturday? Hope so. Let me know if you can hear me okay. We got the moon out tonight. Nice full moon, and it is a supermoon for tomorrow. It's going to be 16% brighter than usual, 7% larger, and full moon's going to be at 10:47 a.m. What's going on with the camera? 10:47 a.m. tomorrow is when we hit the full moon, and then tomorrow night, 3:42 a.m. is when we get the minimum perigee, where the moon is the closest, and that's the supermoon there. Another interesting thing going on is in occultation with Aldebaran, which is a star. Let me see if I can show this to you. Yeah, there's a look at Aldebaran. This is going to be tomorrow morning, about 6 a.m., and you can see Aldebaran passes very close to the moon. But this is how it looks from Texas. If you're in Chicago, look at that. It actually blocks Aldebaran. And if you get a little bit in between around Denver, you can see that when Aldebaran passes by about 6:50, it grazes the moon very closely. And if you get in the correct spot where the moon is like grazing the mountains, or Aldebaran is grazing the mountains of the moon, you can see the star kind of winking on and off as the mountains on the moon occlude it, which is pretty neat. And there are some resources that help you map out exactly where to go to see stuff like that. Okay, let me take a look at the chat and see what we got going on here. Audio and video okay? Good, yeah, I turned off a few switches on my audio board to try to improve the sound. We have Electric Dog here, and Ryan Toomey's finishing up there at the office, catching the live stream. Cool night in South Florida. Busy holiday season there in South Florida. King tides flooding area coastal streets with the supermoon, and winds blowing in from the east. Electric Dog saying 3 more days until the bottom drops out there in Illinois. Mick is with us. Mick in Australia, is that correct? If so, we'll have to do some Australian forecasts over the next few days. David Moore, there in the Metroplex, missed last night. His dad is 91. That's awesome. Great to hear, 91. Michael Burrell, Duane, ordering Digital Atmosphere a month ago. Yeah, I'll have to take a look at that. I've got a huge backlog of emails, and I'm actually going to be getting to that about an hour after the webcast. So, yeah, don't worry about that. We'll get that done. Kathy Campbell-Wallace with us, and very good. So let's head into the forecast. This is the thickness and isobars. So the blue and red, that's going to be the isobars, or the thickness. And what we see is that the patterns are very spread out. So the thermal gradient, not very tight, except for Oregon, where we have a system coming on shore. So that's a cold front moving through the Medford area, in through Redding and looks like Fort Bragg. And we've probably got a little bit of a warm front across the Great Basin. So we'll look for that on the surface chart. High pressure across the eastern U.S. And when we have high pressure out to the east, that's usually a good sign that we have return flow developing off the Gulf of Mexico. So maybe something like that. And we do see a couple of isobars out there on the Gulf Coast. So a little bit of a weak flow coming up from the north. Also looks like maybe a warm front in North Texas. A little bit of troughing there. And that could possibly connect up to the Pacific system, kind of like that. All right, so those are some things to look for on the charts. And we can also correlate this with the 850 millibar chart. Here's the 850 millibar chart for a couple of hours ago. And let's take a look here. We've got warm temperatures down there in Texas, 13 to 15 at 850 millibars. And that contrasts with 0 to 1 in the Great Lakes. So let's see, where do we have a strong temperature contrast? Well, we go from 15 down to 11 at Springfield, down to 4, so it's very gradual. And I'm thinking maybe something like that right there. Actually, we don't fill that in. At 850 millibars, upper level charts, we do hollow barbs and pips. So that's the 850 millibar warm front. And then that should connect up to that Pacific system. Perhaps located up there, maybe. Well, we've got 8 degrees there at Oakland, so it could even be a little bit further south. Okay, let's look at the surface chart. Starting out with Texas, well, we've got about 18 to 20, dropping very quickly to -3 to 2 above there in Iowa and South Dakota. So let's see if we can place a warm front. It is going to be pretty difficult to do that with high pressure in close proximity, but I think there's enough troughing in that area right there, Arkansas, maybe to place a front. Let's see, we got 18, dropping to 17, and then a couple 12s and 10s. Yeah, I think this looks to be that looks to be about right where it is. So that's our surface front, running from about Tucumcari to Wichita Falls and down to Texarkana. And then our system in the west coast. This looks like an occluded low off the coast of Washington. And then down in California, very light flow. We have south winds there at Vegas. So this is indicative of kind of a warm air mass. So I'm thinking probably a warm front, maybe something like that, or a cold front like that. And yeah, that kind of matches up. 13 at Reno, that's a little bit on the warm side. That's upper 50s. And then you go across up to Medford, and we get down to 3 Celsius, which is about 37 Fahrenheit. So that's about how things look. A couple of systems, just one there on the west coast and that warm front there in Texas. Okay, here's the sounding from Fort Worth from earlier. And we can see the base of that cirrus layer located about 16,000 feet. And quite a bit of depth to that layer. And let's check out that cirrus on the satellite. Let me see if I can find that. Okay, there's our cirrus coming up into Texas. Looks like some sort of low-pressure system aloft out over northwest Mexico. So what's happening? Actually, yeah, let's check this out. Let me see if I can stop that. Let me run this back to about 0Z. Okay, we saw some pretty tight rotation there in northwest Mexico. And we can see some very strong curvature there of the cirrus field. So probably we've got an upper level low kind of in this area here. And you notice looks like a little bit of a ridge across Texas. See, that's kind of almost like a little barrier there, running from about Houston to Lubbock and up to Albuquerque. And when the cirrus flows across that ridge, we get subsidence on the other side. So we'll run that there and You can see the cirrus filaments as they move across, subsidence on the other side. Let's match that up with the vorticity. Okay, there's the 500 millibar heights and vorticity. There we go. So this corresponds to that satellite imagery. And we can see a little bit of ridging right in here. So that's fairly close to that Houston, Lubbock, Albuquerque axis. And yeah, there's the upper level low right there in northwest Mexico near, I think, Guaymas. Okay, here's a look at the water vapor imagery. So we do have a couple systems out there in the Pacific. There's one right there, another system up there off Washington, and there's that system right there in northwest Mexico. And out in front of it, a bit of a Pineapple Express coming up into New Mexico and Texas. Okay, let's see, checking this out, taking a look at chat. Kathy Campbell-Wallace is with us. And Fun with Tech, Sue M. And, yeah, service desk at weathergraphics.com. Yeah, you can definitely email that, and I should have that email box cleared completely by the end of the weekend. Ron Chalfant says, we lost the Ghost 16R from College DuPage yesterday. That's too bad. Hopefully that's not a big problem going on there. Okay, I think what we'll go ahead and do is head into the forecast. We'll start out with the upper level pattern. This is the GFS forecast, 200 millibars up at about 39,000 feet. And what we see is a little bit of a ridge coming across the northern plains, but down to the south, there's that upper level trough. It looks like that'll just kind of progress eastward. And that'll be coming into Texas during the day on Sunday and then out into the southeast states on Monday. There it goes right there. And then in behind that, looks like we get a little bit of polar front jet action. Still got kind of an open wave out to the west. So Monday, Tuesday, strong jet stream energy across the central U.S. And then we see a little bit of troughing by Thursday, right in this area. So that means cold weather for the plains. And we get a northern stream coming in. So that's going to push some cold air in probably by next weekend. Looks like some height rises there in California. So something going on out here in the southwest. And then towards the end, major trough coming in through the southwestern U.S. on the 15th. So overall, it looks like we're kind of dominated here by medium waves. Not seeing much in the way of long waves. We do have a major long wave here around the 11th or 12th, but things start breaking up towards mid-month into a very meridional pattern here. So let's check out what's happening at the surface. Kind of a quiet weather pattern to start out with. Obviously, most of the action taking place out there in California. There comes our funnel system through Idaho, Nevada, and California. And we're going to see that crossing the Rockies on Sunday and Monday. So here it goes. And we can see lee side troughing there from Tucumcari up to Garden City, up to North Platte. This is a lee side low and a lee side trough right there. And then we'll see that system emerge. And here it comes, coming out into the Central Plains on Monday. Strong temperature contrasts even out there in Arizona on the tail end. And then up in Minnesota, pretty good frontal system right there, and looks like a little bit of a blizzard in the Sioux Falls area around Fargo. And that takes off to the northeast, and the system pushes through Texas on Tuesday night, and I think it's actually going faster than what had been forecast. I think it was trying to bring this in on Wednesday, just only a few days ago. So showers developing along that. You can see the flow of moisture coming up from the Gulf feeding that front. And then most of the action moves out to the eastern U.S. High pressure in the wake of that. Looks like a big 1044 millibar high. And plenty of cold air advection coming back in on the backside of that. So after that, it should be quiet, just kind of a northwest flow. Looks like high pressure there in the Rio Grande. And then we get a little bit of an Alberta clipper coming in. There it is right there. This is going to be on the 8th and 9th. Coming southward on the 9th and 10th. And I will caution you that they get pretty unpredictable as we get into mid-month, and I'll show you why here shortly. But we know that as far as the long term, we do have northwesterly flow, kind of cold during the middle of the month. But as far as the individual details, that's very hard to pick out. So I'll just show you these real quick, and we're not going to put too much stock in these. So what the charts were showing back on the 14th, or I'm sorry, on the 30th, you can see up at the top here, 30th at 18Z. This was the forecast for the 14th at 18Z. And you can see we were looking at kind of a winter storm across Texas and Oklahoma. So we run the model 12 hours later for the very same time. Here's the change we were looking at. Okay, it looks pretty similar. It's back down a little bit on the liquid precip. 12 hours later. Okay, now a pretty big change. So the ridging has developed into a low pressure system coming in through the Mississippi River Valley. 12 hours later, now we're back to high pressure. High pressure with northerly flow and a little bit of upslope in Texas, so kind of a cloudy, dreary pattern. And then 12 hours later, okay, now we've got southerly flow coming up the Rio Grande, and this is kind of a dry pattern. So I would say after the 5th or 10th, probably the 8th or 10th, we don't really have a good picture of what's going on. But we do know things will be stormy out to the west. And I think the timing is the main question at this point. Okay, so that's about all I got for tonight. Not a whole lot going on tonight, just kind of fair. But we are heading into an active weather pattern, I think, in the next week or so. Okay. So I think we'll just wrap it up, and I'm going to head out and get my dinner. So hope everybody has a good evening. Take care, and we'll see you tomorrow.